Welcome to Aspire to Lead, where we empower educators and school leaders to grow, inspire, and thrive. I'm your host, Joshua Stamper, author, speaker, and leadership coach, bringing you conversations that spark transformation, challenge the status quo in education, and equip you to make a lasting impact on your campus or in your district. For more information and resources, visit joshstamper.com as we're looking to ascend to new leadership heights together. Welcome back, everyone, to Aspire to Lead. I am so excited for this week's guest as I just saw her in the amazing Tampa area, and Julie Schmidt Hasson is with me. And what's funny is she just reminded me that there is a wonderful chef with the same name. So if you're trying to look our wonderful guest up, you got to make sure that you put the Schmidt in there. Otherwise, you're going to find someone that is nowhere near education.
No, but
Julie?
Makes amazing vegan cupcakes.
It's funny because I did, and this was a while back, because you've been on several things. We've been connected for years, but you've been on our webinars here for the last 2 years, our student behavior solutions webinars. And The first time I was looking for information on you, and I just put Julie Hasson on, and then all these cookbooks came up, and I was like, maybe there's a hidden talent here that I didn't realize.
I wish I had that skill. She is amazing. I love what she does, but that's a whole different Julie Hasson.
Well, it was phenomenal to see you in person. I have to laugh. In person, the first time we saw each other was in the hotel lobby, and you had an insane amount of sodas and drinks in your hands. And I'm just impressed with your strength, because I don't know how you did it.
Thanks. I mean, I think, women and moms were used to, we balance on the hip. And then I was like, oh no, Josh knows my secret shame with my big box of Diet Cokes going up to the
Oh, it was so funny. No, it was great not only seeing you, but then also getting a chance to learn more about all the wonderful things you're doing, but then also just your presence. You're just an amazing person. And I'm just so fortunate to be connected with you and to have you on Aspire to Lead for the first time, which I feel really bad, Julie, that you haven't been on before, because you are doing phenomenal work, like I said, all over education.
So many things together. So it feels like we've been on here together. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited.
Well, like I said, I've gotten a chance to know you, your work, what you speak on, all those types of things. And so for those who are tuning in this week, will you just share a little bit about your educational leadership journey?
Sure. I was a classroom teacher, mostly primary grades, for about 15 years. And then I spent the next decade as an assistant principal and principal. While I was doing that, I earned my doctorate in educational leadership at the University of South Florida. Go Bulls. They're having a great football season. Have to throw that in. And at the end, I think, of a decade of school leadership, I got a call from my alma mater asking me if I wanted to come to higher ed full time. I had kids going off to college. It seemed like the right time. And I was excited about doing some research and partnering with school districts and serving teachers in a different way. So I ended up taking that job and teaching graduate students, which I love, but was also told, you need a research focus. What do you really want to know? And at that same time, my very favorite, beloved first grade teacher, Nancy Russell, retired. In fact, I had been her principal her last 3 years in teaching. Adore Mrs. Russell. And all I really wanted to know is, how do teachers like Mrs. Russell make this lasting impact on our lives? What do these really impactful teachers say and do? That became my research focus. It was a crazy research design. It was basically me with a sign saying, let's chat about a teacher you remember, in like public parks and flea markets and craft fairs and in the middle of the street with strangers, just collecting these stories that were so beautiful, but also so informative. And they made this notion of teacher impact really concrete. And it turned out what they did is make us feel safe and seen and stretched. And they did that in a million ways. So about year 5 of that research, COVID started and teacher resilience became a focus. How do we help these impactful teachers stay in the classroom, stay longer, grow stronger, keep making an impact? I needed that for them. I needed that for me, because my resilience was a little shaky at that time. And I became a certified resilience trainer, and educator resilience and engagement has been my research focus, my training, my keynote focus ever since. I finished that just as you're having to take a sip.
It's all good. People know I constantly am drinking on the show. So
Not
let's talk
alcohol
about
friends. He just got a soda.
only with you, Julie, in Tampa. That's really the
Only
only
in
space.
Tampa. That's
All right.
true.
So let's talk about all of that research because I want to kind of geek out. Obviously COVID, we know what happened there. You talked about, your resilience kind of chipped away during that time. I know for myself too, the job was very hard prior to COVID. And then you throw all of that instability and stress and potentially trauma for some folks during that time. It made the job even harder. And then on the other side of it, people are still feeling the effects of that. So, in your research, what were some of the key factors for helping teachers be resilient?
I ended up with a framework. Again, I'm a qualitative researcher, so my research is interviews and observations. Talk to hundreds of teachers about their experience, not just in COVID, but in the work. I would hear things like, teaching has always been hard, but it's become the wrong kind of hard, which is a really interesting thing to dig into. Like, what is the wrong kind of hard? Teachers loved the challenge. That's why they became teachers. That's why they keep teaching. But some of the hard wasn't that kind of challenge. It was an overwhelming amount of paperwork that didn't feel necessary or administrative functions that didn't feel important. It was like moving away a bit from the purpose and meaning in the work. It was overly scripted things that stifled their creativity. There were all these things that turned out were the wrong kind of hard. And the things they really needed were space and time and autonomy, but also some tools for regulating those big teacher emotions that were coming with all the hard, some supportive relationships with colleagues and like room to develop those in unstructured spaces, tools for reframing the challenges. So how can we look at the challenges not as frustrations, obstacles, barriers, but opportunities for us to grow, for our students to grow? And then opportunities to reflect, not just on the hard things, but also on the good things, like really pausing to say, what can we celebrate here before we move on to what are the challenges here? So really regulate, relate, reframe, reflect became that framework. And it's the thing I focus on anytime I do trainings or keynotes with teachers.
Let's talk about the person right now that's listening and they're like, you know what, the honeymoon period's over. We're in the thick of it. There's not really a break coming up anytime soon. And so what can they do to help themselves stay energized or maybe even engaged in the work that they're currently doing?
Yeah, it's October, and we all know October is the dip. There are a couple of things to do. Let's start with relationships, because relationships are the most life-giving part of teaching, but also the part of teaching that can really wear us out the most. It's both and. Building strong supportive relationships with colleagues is so important. When I do trainings, a lot of times I'll give someone a brave volunteer a beach ball and just say, you've got to keep this ball going for 60 seconds. If you drop it, terrible things will happen. All eyes are on you. You've got to keep the ball going. And we can just feel the stress of this one individual trying to keep this ball up in the air. And then we'll pick 3 more volunteers, friends, to come, and now everybody's got to keep the ball in the air, which means I can step out for a second. I can laugh with my colleague while we're trying to keep this crazy beach ball up in the air. We can talk and feel connected while we're doing it. And it's just a great demonstration for the fact that isolation is really stressful, that trying to do it all on your own is super stressful. But when we collaborate with trusted colleagues, it feels better. It's more fun. It's a little lighter. So I think starting there. But if we're talking about relationships, we also have to talk about boundaries and deciding what our boundaries are, what we need to clearly communicate to others. For example, I teach grad students. All my students are teachers, which means they're working on projects mostly over the weekend. And I have said to them, I don't check email on Sundays. That's a boundary I set. I need one day off. And the thing about boundaries is it's not what we're asking someone else to do. It's what we're going to do. And we just need to be clear about that. So they can email me on Sundays, and they do. They just know they won't hear back from me till Monday. So do we need to make it clear with the people we work with, the families we serve, with our students, that there are times when we are offline and not accessible? Do we need to make it clear to ourselves sometimes that this is the time I'm going to leave work every day? that these are the only circumstances under which I'm going to take work home. So I think it's really thinking about putting that boundary or frame around some things and giving yourself the space you need so that you can impact lives, but still have a life.
For sure. So let's talk about the role of self-compassion within that, because I know you've written about this before, and I think that's a key component that folks tend to forget about.
One of the things I talk about, things I love to do in training, one of the things I love to do is put up a scenario, like a case study, and say, you have a colleague. This is what's going on with your colleague. She's exhausted all the time. She's shutting down emotionally. She feels overwhelmed. She's on 6 different committees after school, and she has 3 kids at home, blah, blah, blah. This whole thing. And what would you say to this colleague? And they say the sweetest, most supportive, encouraging things. They give the best advice. And now I say, okay, let's say that's you. What do you say to you? And it's not as friendly and helpful. It's like, suck it up, buttercup. Push through it. You took on this responsibility. So some of that compassion is just talking to ourselves like we would talk to a dear friend. But also, I know for me, compassion often is taking care of future me, because I don't always think about her needs when I make decisions, make commitments, when I procrastinate things, when I make choices, whether that choice is eating, staying up too late, having too much fun in Tampa, asking myself, what will future me need? And trying to make some decisions aligned with that.
That's a really good activity, Jilly. I know you do a lot of fantastic things specifically in your keynote, but I think it's a good reflection component. We are our worst enemies sometimes, and we're the hardest on ourselves. And sometimes we do need to give ourselves permission or some compassion to make sure that we're being our best versions of ourselves. This is a really, really tough role that we're in. Yeah. How about rediscovering joy? What are some things that you offer for that?
I was working with a principal a couple of months ago. It was probably right at the beginning of the school year. And he was saying that he just had this lack of joy and fun and play in his life because there's just no time for it. So we had a conversation about, what did you love to do when you were little? I love to have a catch. So now he brings a couple gloves into his office and he gets a 5th grader or a coworker or somebody. And if they have to have a conversation anyway, they'll throw the baseball while they have it. And I think that's amazing. It adds a little fun and lightness, and it brings him back to that place of joy. I had a former boss who loved to play jacks when she was a kid, where you bounce the rubber ball and pick up the jacks. And we all got her sets of jacks for Christmas. And every now and then she'd just do that, like for 5 minutes. So I think if we think about what used to bring us joy, often those are things that don't take a lot of time or equipment or focus. There are small things, swinging on a swing, going for a walk, eating a popsicle that we can incorporate into our day.
I think as a leader too, you can bring some of that in, at least providing opportunity. Like for instance, I remember for our campus, and we did this 2 years in a row, one being during the year of COVID, was we brought an ice cream truck and they got to choose, right? The ice cream truck has the board, but we got so many people like, oh, I remember this as a kid, and it brought back a lot of good memories. And we all ate outside. Obviously with COVID, you don't want to be inside with everyone. So it was a fun activity for them, but it was something that they loved so much that they asked us to do it every year.
That's amazing. I mean, a hula hoop contest, jump rope with your kids on the playground. And there are a million little fun, joyful things we can do. I think we have to look for it and be open to it.
For sure. All right. Well, since we're talking about leadership and some of these culture pieces, as far as implementing, what are some things that we can do as leaders to nurture not only joy, but also teacher resilience?
I think one of the best places to start is just to ask our teachers, what do they need? Because it's easy to assume. I have a friend who teaches in New Jersey, and she's the best, most well-intentioned principal. And he brought in a yoga teacher to do yoga on the lawn, which sounds amazing, but it was conference night. So they were trying to get ready for conferences and doing yoga on the lawn. And she said she's never been so stressed out doing yoga. So I think assuming what they need may get us into trouble. It's better to ask them what they need. Most of the time, you know what they'll say.
More time.
So can we videotape what we were going to tell them at the faculty meeting and do kind of a backward design kind of thing? Are there things we can eliminate that aren't absolutely crucial, especially in October, are there ways to leverage their strengths so that they're doing things that feel easier and more in their wheelhouse? I think that's probably the best place to start. And then creating a culture that nurtures and cultivates beautiful, collegial, collaborative relationships. It's just a good place for teachers to be and to work.
So you're saying don't let your staff do downward dog as parents are coming for teacher conferences?
Turned out that was a bad idea. Turned out it wasn't helpful. Best of intention. You know how that goes.
I just have a visual in my mind. Well, it's one of those things, right? Your intention is there, but the implementation needs some
a little off.
Shifting.
Bless him.
A little off.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. All right. Julie, I know there's a lot of things that you're doing, and you have a ton of books, a lot of wonderful resources. Actually, Charlie Peck just referenced one of your books in our last Language of Behavior episode that just dropped. So if folks listen to that, definitely check that out. Pause.
Yep, ponder and persist.
Ponder and persist.
So the beauty of stopping and taking a breath, getting really curious, and then just keep walking forward.
Awesome. She said some wonderful things about it and how it was something that she needed in her life. I know you also have something that you provide to teachers as far as a teacher recharge project. Will you just share a little bit about that and the resources to help them out in their journey?
Sure. On teacherrecharge.com, on the resources tab, all kinds of freebies. So we tend to use the word recharge instead of resilience. We get tired of being told to be resilient. And sometimes as educators, leaders, teachers, we push back on that a little bit. Recharge feels friendlier and more actionable. So there is a battery audit and some battery tools where you can really get to know how your battery works, what charges you up, what depletes you. There's a link to a journal with some prompts I love for some quick morning and evening journaling for reflection and building that charge on your battery. All kinds of resources in there, some videos and other things. So if you're looking for those recharge resources, teacherrecharge.com is the place to find them and to connect with me.
Yeah. So for those who are watching on YouTube, I keep flashing up Julie's website. So we'll make sure that that's in the show notes for you to be able to click on that and get all of the free resources that she has to offer there. And then, Julie, I actually have heard that before, and I can't remember if it was on this podcast or just had a conversation with someone, but they talked about the term burnout and not liking that because it's got a finality to it. You know, we talk about like the candle burning down, and we all know what happens at the end of that wick. You throw it in the garbage, right? And that visual aid, if you will, of that or that metaphor is just, it's not very positive.
It's not encouraging, is it? But you can recharge your battery anytime. It just takes some awareness and intention. I mean, we do it with our phone. We're very aware of our phone charge and we plug it in when we need to. And we can do that same thing with our internal battery.
So do you have any tactics that you like to share with leaders if they're feeling a little down on their charge? I know you have the 1% that you do in your keynote icon.
I don't recommend panic charging. You know, when you go and grab the Red Bull or the double espresso or the donut or whatever, I mean, that's okay. But we rely on that sometimes a little too much. So thinking about other things, maybe it's some deep breathing, going somewhere, put yourself in the storage closet for 3 minutes and listen to a favorite song, watch a calming video, put your nature sounds on. The waves are always good. Whatever you need to do to charge, even if it's just a walk. So for me, the charging is either breathing. There's so many different kinds of breathing that can help us calm down and charge up, or movement. So do I need to stretch, let go of some tension, move around a bit, or sensory? Do I need to, for me, it's a hot cup of mint tea. Like you can hold that warm cup, you can smell that mint, you can taste it. So breathing, movement, and incorporating some sensory things are always good chargers.
Awesome. Is that also on your website as far as if people need some suggestions?
Yes, there's some there. I think there's a menu of quick rechargers on there, all kinds of things you can find.
Beautiful. All right. So let's talk about an actionable item. I like asking this of all my guests, Julie. So if there's something that our leaders, aspiring or current, can do tomorrow or next week to enhance their leadership journey, what is something that you would recommend?
I think it's take a few quiet minutes and just make a list. What charges me? What depletes me? And really, we can make this super uncomplicated. Try to do a little more of what charges you and a little less of what depletes you. Everything's mathematics, isn't it? So I think that's a good place to start, to get to know your own battery and try to do more of those charging things and a little less of those depleting things.
Yeah, cut the fat.
Yeah, pretty easy, straightforward.
All right, Julie, we've been flashing your website throughout our conversation, but if there's folks that, maybe want to look up a way to get you into their school district to speak or connect with you on social media, how would they do that?
Yeah. On the Teacher Recharge website, there's a contact place. There's several. So if you're looking for me, you can contact me there. Also, I'm at Julie S. Hasson on most social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and Julie Schmidt Hasson on YouTube if you're looking for some videos.
All right. And then for the recharge piece, you have a beautiful presentation with great visuals of that situation that you've had. And I don't want to spoil it because it's such a great story. But if people are looking for a speaker, maybe it's at the beginning of the school year or throughout the school year as far as professional development, what are some of the things that you like to offer?
Yep. I'm always up for a keynote. I love to do a keynote. So if there's a welcoming teachers back, just did a beginning teachers keynote, which was super fun. One of the things I love the most about this recharge framework, it isn't specific to teachers, even though our website is Teacher Recharge. Bus drivers, student nutrition folks, leaders at all levels, everybody needs to manage their battery because it matters. It matters not just because we deserve to be healthy, happy humans, but because it matters to the people and the kids we serve. When we show up, we talked about Mrs. Russell, my Mrs. Russell. I often think if she was disengaged and discouraged and depleted, she wouldn't have made that impact on my life. So if we want to impact lives and still have a life, this kind of self-work matters for all of us.
Awesome. I'll make sure that all of that information, both website and then all of the social media links are there for folks. I definitely want you to start following Julie, but then also contact her because she's a brilliant speaker. And I know it'll make a huge impact for your organization, for your school, for your staff. And Julie, I can't say enough about your work, not only as a speaker, but also your books. So blessed to be connected with you, to meet you in person just a couple weeks ago, and then also to have you on as a guest of Aspire Lead. So thank you so much.
I'll right back at you, my friend. Thanks so much for having me.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.